back in the day, you paid somebody 10, 12 bucks an hour. That was
good.
Yeah, that was good. And that's all he wanted. And so I just paid him a couple, like 150 to 250 bucks a week, and he would mow on those days where I was in class. We all have one solid mission to change the level of professionalism in the landscape industry, and we're all a piece of that pie. And so we all have one directive, one clean idea of what we're going to do. And so I think just having that community is it's undervalued.
How did that sense feel to make your own money at 12 years old?
So I felt like I was just emotionally tapped out, like customers calling you at 10 o'clock at night, wondering about their grass, and you're like, well, what does this have to do with anything? And then they're calling you, they're texting you, they're emailing you, they're trying to get a hold of you on weekends, Sundays.
No respect.
No respect. Yeah, none at all. They don't care. A lot of them just don't care.
Would you say that the community of Augusta Nation is more valuable than the actual systems?
The money does nothing whenever you can't win with somebody.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot of that going on as well when you're a coach.
And what are your responsibilities as a coach? What do you have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Yeah, you have to figure out what your limit is. Kind of like David Goggins, you just got to keep going until you literally can't go anymore. And so beforehand, where I'd be like, it's already March and I hate mowing grass, and now it's like, I feel like this year it hit me in August, which is way later than what it normally would.
So you would say that personal life really pushed you to look into your business life a little more seriously?
Yeah, sometimes you just hate where you're at, and so you just have to figure out why you hate it or what can make it better. And I just felt like, shut up or do something.
Connor, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate you making time. I know you're in work vacation, but thank you very much. I appreciate you. Can you tell me just a little bit about your background and kind of what you're up to now?
Oh, you got to go back 27 years, don't we?
Let's go back 27 years.
No, I've pretty much been in Evansville. That's where our location's based out of. I've pretty much been there my whole entire life. I was actually born in Augusta, Georgia, surprisingly. And so it's just kind of funny how it made full circle after so many years. Long story short, been in Evansville since I was 2 or 3 years old. Grew up there, high school, college, met my wife in Evansville, met all my lifelong friends pretty much in that area. Been doing lawn care since I was 10 or 11 years old. Was the neighborhood kid. I wanted my dad to buy something for me. He said no. And I said, well, I'm going to buy it with my own money. And I remember telling him out of spite a couple years ago, or 15 years ago now, well, if I buy it with my money, you can't take it away from me. You learn real quick that your parents find a way to make something happen. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's kind of how I started in lawn care, but yeah.
So did you just buy a mower, trimmer, blower, and just cut the neighbor's yards, or how did that go?
So I would try to use their stuff. I would give them a discount if they let me use their stuff. If not, my dad told me I had to pay him to use his stuff. So I would charge them $5 or $10 less if I got to use their lawnmower, which quickly I found out that not everybody uses good equipment. And so everybody kind of has a different lawnmower, a different weed eater, and some stuff you just end up.
Right. And so when you started, at 10 years old? Kind of?
Yeah, I was going into 6th grade, so I was 10 or 11 years old.
10 or 11 years old. And then, 10 or 11 years old, a year after you started making whatever decent amount of money, a couple hundred bucks, how did that sense feel to make your own money at 12 years old?
It feels good. You don't necessarily have to ask your parents for money when you're that young, and you could still. Back then you really only spent it on I think I bought an iPod or an iPad or something. So you just spend it on toys, or you go out to eat with your friends. There's really not a whole lot you can spend your money on at 10 or 11 years old, and so just throughout middle school, it was just one of those things where people kept calling back, and so it was just kind of one of those cool things.
Interesting. And then you did that all the way up to college?
Yep. So I did it in middle school, high school, and in college. And so I think my first summer I made $1,500 at 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere around there. And then I think by the time I got out of high school, I was doing $65,000. I think I did $65,000 my senior year.
Wow.
So, and still living at home. And then I did the same thing all through college as well.
It's like a full-time job, essentially.
Yeah, I think by the time we got out of college, my senior year I graduated, we finished around $200,000.
Wow. What'd you go to college for?
Finance, econ, and then I was 2 classes away from a Spanish minor. I didn't finish it. I did not.
Spanish is good?
Yeah, I think so.
Un poquito?
No.
No?
No español aquí. No. All right, no.
Oh, man. Cool. And then So you went to school for that, and what made you stay in lawn care?
Well, sometimes whenever you grow up in lawn care, sometimes I almost feel like you think that you can't do anything else. Like, where else are you going to make good money, do your own schedule? Like, I mainly went to college for my dad's preference. I told him I didn't want to go because I wasn't going to go into student loan debt. So if he wanted me to go, he had to pay for it. And he said, great, I'll pay for it. So then I kind of had to go. He called my bluff.
Oh, man. Okay, cool. And what was the original name for the business?
When I first started, it was Lawn Rangers.
Lawn Rangers?
Lawn Rangers. But then whenever I found out that you can't have the same name as somebody else, I changed it over to Grass Matters.
Grass Matters.
Yep. I did that in high school. I had to change it over to Grass Matters.
Okay. And how long did that business stand before transitioning over to Augusta?
I mean, I guess properly, like, like taxes and because whenever you're a young kid, you kind of just do it as a side gig. But once I started driving, so probably about 17 years old or so, I started it like legit. So it was probably around this is going to be my 4th year in Augusta. So for about 5 years. 5? Yeah.
Okay. About 5 years. And in those 5 years, did you see a lot of growth in you as a person and in the business?
Yeah, so I mean, I was probably like anybody else. I was always listening to like audiobooks. I mean, YouTube back in the day wasn't as sophisticated, I guess. It was more like watching people mow grass. But now I feel like it's kind of turning into like course.
Educational.
Yeah, educational. Like I remember watching like Geek to Freak Lawn Care or like Top Notch Lawn Care or like, some of like the older people like Keith Kalfas, whenever he was like.
Whenever it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was super hyper, and he was really good at what he did at the time, and he may be now, but I just don't follow him ever since we joined. But then I just, you find other people on Johnny Mow and Brian's Lawn Maintenance and, stuff like that.
Interesting. And then what was revenue like in those 5 years? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I guess by the time I started college to the time I ended college, like I said, my senior year of high school, we did about $65,000.
Yeah.
And then I finished around 200 or so by the time we ended in college. And so I guess my revenue went up probably 150,000 while in college. And so I was able to mow during college because I did 2 days a week at school, and then the other 2 or 3 days a week I would mow grass. And so I had somebody I had 2 employees probably prematurely. I had like one full-time employee. He did the Monday through Friday with me. And then the days when I was at school, I had my uncle who would help me. And so I had like that part-time guy where I just paid him, back in the day, you paid somebody $10-12 an hour. That was
good.
Yeah, that was good. And that's all he wanted. And so I just paid him a couple, like 150 to 250 bucks a week, and he would mow on those days where I was in class. And so it worked out that I was able to do that.
Okay. And so that was your uncle. And did that family relation kind of help like trust him to do the job? Like,
yeah, I mean, he always did a good job. And the buddy that worked full time, he had been with me since I was pushing lawnmower before I could even drive.
Right. Okay.
And so he was about 4 or 5 years younger than me. So, but he just did it to make money too. And then he got really, really good at it. And then he was a crew lead before I joined Augusta. And so I mean, he was with me for like 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
So he kind of grew up with me.
Okay.
And then my uncle just helped because he just wanted to help me. Yeah.
Okay. That works. And then, at what point did you find out anything about Augusta or Mike?
Yeah, so if I'm going into my 4th spring rush with them, I probably found out in 2020.
2020?
Yeah, like
right
when I started.
The pandemic?
Yeah, right during that, because I was just like, there's got to be a better way to all of this. Because like I was finishing up college, I was like, hey, I need this to be like legit. Like I was still paying taxes, and like we still had a profit, and like I still had a business account and all of that, but I needed to make sure it was like legitimately legit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like serious.
Yeah, I wanted to have like good stuff for the employees. Like, you try to think about 401k, you're talking to people like you should do health benefits, and then you don't realize I only make $200,000 a year in revenue. I can't provide health benefits or 401k. And so it's one of those things that like you start looking for like what, later on I found out it's the stages of growth where you can do certain things during certain times of periods of growth of the business or different levels of revenue. And so I think that's what I was looking for overall. Now I just have a word or a phrase for it. But that's what I was searching for at the time. And so then that's whenever we found Mike. And I remember listening to Mike like during my honeymoon and like a whole bunch of stuff to make the decision or not.
Right.
And so like that was just how I found him, was YouTube.
Okay. So were the main pain points to switch over basically, do you feel like you just had a capacity that you couldn't get over by yourself? Or was it knowledge, or what was it? Like the main, I guess that main thing that made you switch over?
Yeah, I think the tipping point was just not wanting to keep creating the wheel. Like you're
creating the wheel.
Yeah, you're always trying to find something. Like you get bits and pieces from this person. This is in your handbook. This is in your, hey guys, we charge top price, so we need to provide top price. And it's just like, well, why? There's no like why to it. It's just, we just mow grass. And so like, I felt like it was a dead end to the employees, but like on the business end, like I wanted the business to be professional, but on like the personal end, like business is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Like personally, emotionally. And so like I felt like I was just emotionally tapped out, like customers calling you at 10 o'clock at night, like wondering about their grass. And you're like, well, what does this have to do with anything? And so, and then they're calling you, they're texting you, they're emailing you, they're trying to get a hold of you on weekends, Sundays.
No respect.
No respect. Yeah, none at all. They don't care. A lot of them just don't care.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to find that, in between of what to do. And I think and then I got to a point where I just stopped responding to some people, or like I just didn't have a good time with it. And so like I felt like I was shutting down, and I was like, I really need this to work, or else I'm going to have to, figure out something. I was kind of halfway looking at doing something in the finance realm, which is what I went to college for. But kind of one of the deciding factors was I was like, I'm getting married. Like I need to,
do something. Serious.
Yeah. I need to, shut up or do something.
Oh man. So you would say that personal life really pushed you to look into your business life a little more seriously?
Yeah. Like sometimes you just hate where you're at. And so you just have to figure out like why you hate it or what can make it better. And I just felt like I didn't even look at other franchises. I just knew that Mike was just, I don't know, speaking to my heart, I guess, divine intervention, whatever you'd like to call it. And I just knew that was what I needed to, that's just what I knew I needed to do. And my family wasn't necessarily on a supportive role of that. My dad said, you can do whatever you can do whatever you want. And he's like, I think you should wait a little bit longer. And my mom's like, I hate it. I think it's a bad idea. You're giving up you're giving up on yourself. You know. Then you have some customers calling you a sellout, like we were talking about.
The corporate sellout?
Yeah. Oh, you're selling off to corporate, all of these things. And you're like, hey, I needed emotional help. Like I didn't really think that, depression was a really big thing. And probably until I went, that's probably what I would consider I was in, like in a depressive state, or it was just not fun. And so like I felt like Augusta was going to help me, keep yourself accountable. There's Augusta Nation. Right. There's a lot of people to help you through the process.
Exactly. And backtrack a little bit back to college. You met your wife in college, right? And what kind of influence did she have on the business, right? Because like choosing a long life partner is very, very, very important, right? It's very important for them to support you in your dreams and like check you when you're doing something dumb. So like, what would you say her influence was in the business?
So I joke around with some of my friends that have maybe a little bit more controlling. It's not the right word. Like significant others, like
or like dominance.
Sure, something like that. They want to know what's going on a lot more.
Right.
Like I always tell them that like any girl can marry a guy that knows when he's gonna be home, meaning like 9 to 5. Right. But not every girl can marry a guy when he doesn't know when he's going to be home. So like, we don't stop until the job's done. Right. Or until we burn out. There's really those two options. Either we stop when the work's done, or we pass out on the couch, right? While we're on our computer. And so I think she's just been always understanding of, I want to do like generational, like my dad's been really big on like generational things. So like whenever I met her, like she was, all about working hard, and like she had 3 jobs when I met her. So like she and she was a full-time college student. So like she understood like time is just what you make it. It's not necessarily how much, it's what you do during that time. Even if it meant I took a nap on the couch with her doing her homework next to, that's just what it was. Yeah. So like she was super supportive in that role.
Interesting. Whatever the season calls for.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's amazing. You're so lucky. There's many women out there that will claim that they're like that, but they're not. Once you put them to the test, that's insane. That's great. And is she helping you in the business this day?
Yeah, so now she is like our office admin, office manager, whatever title you would like to call that. When customers call in and complain and they want to talk to me, I tell her she's the manager. She should deal with it because she's the manager. And then other times she's like, well, I'm not the manager. But yeah, now she takes over most of, like, Command Center offers for Augusta like 28 tasks.
Right.
I think she does like 20 plus of those. And so we really did that because we needed to find her a job. And so it just worked out that she was doing admin for another company. And I was like, well, there's no point in you doing admin for somebody else whenever we don't even like where you're at. So like, you might as well, if you want to do that, then just do that here. And so it worked out. It saved us a little bit of money and it provided her a job. So that helped out a ton.
And do you think that helped out with your growth so far in any way, or was it just cost savings?
Yeah, I don't know if it helped out in growth because I had to kind of like grow the business and train her at the same time. So like I had like, I don't know if I wouldn't say split focus, but you had a lot less rest.
It's like another thing to do.
Yeah, it's one more thing to do.
Right.
But it was kind of like one of those things where we had to push through it at the same time. So, because I remember her very first week of when she like started full time, I had 3 guys quit. So like that month, it was just, hey, figure it out. Like, I don't know what to tell you, just figure it out. Like, anything you can let me not do is a win. And so
that's interesting.
she we hit the ball rolling from day one.
When did she start?
I think she started full time like May 5th. That was like that first Monday in May. 24. Yeah, of 24. 24. But she kind of did like part-time help in like March and April, like email management or like if I just needed help, like a special request, like, hey, this client account's looking funny. Can you look into that for me? Or like, hey, this person's billing is weird. Can you do that?
It's like small, low tasks.
Yeah.
Like warm her up.
Yep. But at a certain point, I couldn't pay her for doing tasks and also pay Command Center. Right. So it was just like, hey, we need this to be like one or the other. Which one do you want to do? Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. And a little bit backwards to when you made that brand switch, how did the customers take it? Did they care at all?
I feel like the customers that just want their grass cut, they didn't really care. The customers who knew me, like they know that you're getting married, they know that I went to USI, which was the college. Like they knew what school you went to, they knew you graduated from North, the high school. Like they just knew stuff about you because you'd been servicing for several years. Some of them just flat out didn't like it. Like they couldn't call me at 10 o'clock anymore and I would answer, or, they can't get a hold of me. I think it has nothing to do with like Augusta or Command Center. I think it has everything to do with they just wanted to be in control of the situation, and they don't like talking to an intermediary because that's kind of like what Command is for us. They're the in-between of us. Yeah. So they did not like, which I get it, but like Command Center was going to give them the same information
as you were,
as I was. Like, hey, my bill's $40. How can I pay it? Great, let me take your credit card payment right now. They're like, no, I don't want to give it to you. I'm going to give it to Connor. Or like, you know what I mean? It's just like silly stuff that doesn't make a difference.
Right.
And so
that's interesting. So do you think customers would rather have the local guy over a more standard brand, like a more national brand? Just
I think
because of that intimacy?
Yeah, I think it's like 70-30. Like 30% want the local guy, like will actually use the local guy. 70% say they will, but they care about their checkbook. Right. And so honestly, I feel like they're going to go with, that's why McDonald's is a billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company. Like, they want what's convenient and inexpensive. And so, like, you could go to the regular burger place in town that's 10 times better than McDonald's, but, like, they're not raking in the coals. Usually small businesses are typically struggling. And so, like, you could support that, but instead you want to go to McDonald's, anyway. So, I think people will speak out for local businesses, and I feel like they more so will support when they need it. But like, we were up to about 240 clients this year on a weekly basis, and I probably only met a dozen or 20, so like 10% maybe. Yeah. Like over the years, how many people I know starts to dwindle. So because I think people just want the service. Yeah, they just want their tall grass short and done well. A haircut. And done well, yeah. Like a haircut, same thing. They just want it decent price and quick.
Yeah, I think so too. And out of all the franchises in lawn care, Augusta stood out to you, and obviously because of the systems and because of Mike and the whole brand. But do you think that you couldn't have built something similar yourself? You like, let's just say that you had the same knowledge, right? The same knowledge as Mike, same opportunities. Would you still go to Augusta, or would you try to build that on your own?
So like Mike has talked about that, and many people have talked about that before. Like the whole point of joining Augusta is we ride the wave together,
Right.
or it's a smaller piece of a much larger pie than we could build ourselves. Like if we had, they talk about like some of the original founders of like Apple. There's like they had like 10% stock and they sold it for
billions.
Well, they sold it for like a couple, tens of thousands of dollars. But if they had,
initially,
if they had kept it, they'd be some of the richest people ever. But they didn't. And so it's kind of like, I could probably be rich or wealthy on my own, but I'd be doing it alone. And so like joining, what we call Augusta Nation is much more than just business. I mean, it's like some of these people are some of my best friends now, or like I talk to them every single day, or like accountability groups. Like we have one, like the Dean's List, and that's like 4 or 5, that's 5 of us. And we talk all the time and we keep each other accountable. We have weekly Zoom calls. And so like you could get that, but like we are all going towards the same goal at the exact same time, maybe at different speeds or different capacities, but we all know where to help each other out during different stages. And so I feel like that's a pro to that. So like, we could do it alone, but like, it's kind of like if you go and do something hard, like say a half marathon or a marathon, and you cross the finish line and you're cheering and there's nobody else on the other side. Yeah. But like Augusta Nation, when we win or lose together, there's somebody there to cheer or to pick us up. So I think that's much better than alone.
Would you say that the community of Augusta Nation is more valuable than the actual systems of Augusta?
Yeah, because I don't think half the systems would be there if Augusta Nation wasn't there. Because like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so like Augusta Nation is going to help hold you accountable to make sure that you follow those systems. And if not, then you kind of starve yourself. So like they can't help stubbornness or ignorance. So I mean, like Augusta Nation is what makes Augusta, bleed yellow.
Interesting. So do you think that more franchises should follow that model of like build a strong community, not have it so easy to join in, not just make it about paying a franchise fee and then you're good to go? Like, should it just be more about the actual people coming in and like what their goals are? And if their goals are aligned with the whole goal of the company, like, okay, come in? Or should it just be more of like strictly business?
I mean, I think everything is, you're dealing with people though. Like people connect with people. Yeah. It's like you can't help the emotional response of how people are going to react to things. Like they want to feel important. They want to feel included. They want to win. They don't want to lose. They want to do it, ideally with somebody else. One of our core values is like we give more than we take. Like we need a bunch of givers, not takers. And I feel like Augusta Nation is very much like you could not know anybody in Augusta. Say you're visiting California and be like, hey, do you want to have lunch? And like almost all of them would say yes, or like, hey, can I meet up with you? Can I meet your family? Or just like, hang out. And they would be like, absolutely, let's do it. That's a cool part of it, especially during conference. Yeah. Especially like right now. I feel like community is kind of like, it's kind of like, it's what you make it. But it's kind of like church. Like you could go there for, church for any reason, but you miss the people after a while. And so like the community, the aspect of it is just undervalued. Yeah,
it's like you feel a little bit safer because you have someone in your corner at all times, right? Because like you were saying, like if you do it on your own, you went on your own. And it's like no one's there to cheer you on. But also when you lose, you're not on your own as well. Like, and then you have like a less likely chance to lose because the other people might have made that same mistake as you. So like they can guide you in a way that, hey, like this is not going to work out the way you think it is. So I think that is probably one of the most valuable things because like you can make a mistake and then that's you. And then I'm following up right behind you and then you see me like, hey, I did this a year ago. And if you do this, this was going to happen. Like you have the proof, right? But if it wasn't, I feel like if there wasn't that sense of community, a lot of people would be not, like a lot of owners wouldn't be where they're at now.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And so,
even the top dog, there's always going to be a new top dog. Yeah. Like Ryan Payne, he was saying like he invites somebody to beat him on being top dog because he had won awards the past couple of years about like highest revenue,
Right.
like multi-location or single. Him and Brian Connor, like the competition is there. But whenever you have nobody else and you're not in the community, it's just like, I mean, I have a buddy, like you could say I have a buddy in a couple states over. He does 2 million and I do 2.1. Like, okay, but like you run everything's so different.
Yeah.
Like, but in Augusta, everything's probably 80% the same. And it's cool to be able to see the metrics between store to, I don't want to say store to store, but metrics from location to location. Like that is the cool thing, because if you're in one stage, someone's either below you asking for advice, or you're below somebody else asking them for advice. And so like that's a cool thing.
Yeah, I think that's a very cool thing. And your location, how much did you guys do this year?
Yeah, so we did like 572.
572. So you're past the 500 mark.
Yeah, as of this year.
What are the next steps in like 5 to 10 year period for you guys?
Oh, 5 to 10 years? I can kind of tell you next year.
Let's start with next year.
Next year, the goal is to kind of do between 600 and 700 between a price increase on the customers who we didn't do a price increase on last year, because we did a price increase May 15th. So everybody that joined after May 15th, we did not do a price increase.
Okay.
So going into 25, we will do a price increase on those people as well.
From after May 15th?
Yes, from after May 15th. So everybody that pretty much joins new up until May 15th, and people, so that, 1 year period from 24 to 25, May 15th, we will raise those people's prices by 20% again. That's kind of the model, because that's what we did last year. So that's the idea right now. So between price increase and should Christmas lights pop off like I was hoping it would last year, but didn't, hopefully, ideally, we'd be in between that 600,000 and 700,000 stage. But at the same capacity as what we were doing the year before. So same trucks, same equipment, relatively similar setup. It's just doing it bigger and better.
That's 4 trucks, right?
Yeah, we have 4 trucks. We had 3 out on the daily, and then I was in a truck doing estimates or any catch-up work, or, if I needed to be in the field, I would take a truck by myself.
So is it 2-man crews?
Yeah, so we have 3 trucks with a 2-man crew. We have 2 trucks with a 2-man crew, and then we have P3 is a 1-man crew.
1-man crew.
And then I'm off on my own as well.
Wow, 570 with 3 trucks, 2 mans, 5. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, give or take 100,000 per employee, and then I was part-time, and so.
Yeah, that sounds about right. No, that's good. That's good. And let's go into those Christmas lights. What happened? What do you think? Why do you think it didn't pop off this year?
Oh, I think sometimes we're all naive. And one, I was still in the field, so I did not get to those estimates quick enough. I would think that's, usually on a lot of estimates, you're hoping within 24 hours. But from what I found out, like Christmas lights, people pretty much want a price like right now. Yeah. So I think if you can get to them within 2 hours or less, which is asinine. It's asinine. It's crazy. If you could get to that within 2 hours or less, I think your close ratio would probably go up 10 or 20%, if not double. And so I think getting them out sooner rather than later would help. And then also within Augusta, this is the first year like picking winter tracks. It's like I was also doing winter services, and I did snow, and I did Christmas lights. So it's possible that I was
split focus. And so that's a thought. But also, man, it's almost like starting a brand new business. And so like you gotta it's like guerrilla marketing. Like I was putting out the yard signs, spending money. It's like people don't know that you've done anything yet. You have no recurring base from the year before to pull from. You're kind of really just upselling existing clientele and hoping to get some new clients from some of your marketing. It's like that can be really tough. But I think it's just, and also there's more players in Christmas lights than I would have ever anticipated. Really, in your market?
Yeah, I thought there was only going to be like 3 or 4 that we did it in, but between Augusta branding, SEO, and all of that, I figured we would stand out. Yeah, I didn't really. There's at least 20 people in the area now that I know doing Christmas lights, and so that was, which doesn't really seem like a lot of people, but whenever you're trying to tap into a market and nobody knows who you are yet, that's always kind of tricky.
Yeah, especially because of the time frame. It's like
we have like 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah,
so it's hard to rush that. So
we like broke even. We did like 13 to 15,000 on like 10 or 12 jobs, and that's just kind of how it worked out. Wow. And that's about what we spent between material, buying the ladders, the pitch hopper, and some of the stuff to stock up and actually facilitate the jobs.
So is that the first time you had like a new kind of different service offering than you used to?
That's the first time I've offered a new service since I joined Augusta. Because usually with Augusta,
the same?
usually with Augusta, the whole point is to like simplify, like stick to recurring, whether that be treatments, mowing. I think some people do like dog poop removal, like keeping it to simple services. And then like 20% of your business is landscaping or basic property cleanups. So that's the first time I'd added a new service since joining Augusta several years ago. So I think we added winter services our first year in Augusta, which I think most people implement. And so before that, we really didn't add, winter services is really just a different name for a property cleanup. And so we were still doing property cleanup. So I guess it's just a different branding mechanism of a cleanup. So that's really the last time we had added something new. And then this year, 3 years later, we added Christmas lights. So I hadn't done something like that in quite a while.
So you added, as soon as you joined in, you added winter services.
Right.
And how did that go in the 4 years that you've been here so far?
So winter services is getting better every year because hopefully the more mowing clients you have, the more people you can switch over into winter services, just like anything else. Like however big your database is, you should be able, if you can get a couple percentage points of your database to do work with you. First year I started Augusta, we had like 150 people in our database. Then we get to like 900. Then we got to like 2,000 or a little over 2,000 this upcoming year. So I mean, it gets bigger every year for the amount of people that call in, and we track their data, like their information, their email, and their address. And so that helps us, get more business as well with it. So winter services, probably wasn't much the very first year. It was enough to keep like me busy. And then last year it was like me and one guy, kind of like part-time. And then this year it was me and two guys pretty much full-time. But we also did Christmas lights on top of winter services. So like we were able to stay very busy.
Very busy throughout the winter. Interesting. And so the database, first year 150, next year 900, the following year's thousands. And the main reason why a lot of people give up is because they can't seem to find clients.
Right.
What would you say grew your database that rapidly over the years?
So I think answering the phone, like having command center actually answer the phone. Like I remember during COVID, like it was the contractor's heyday. Like my dad would always say, like I would actually go with their business if they'd actually answer the phone. And so like being able to get a hold of the company is a big win. And so you could probably double your close ratio by just answering the phone or following up with somebody, like at least. And so I think putting that effort into the front line is helpful. Of course, like you tend to have like a more proven track record on marketing with Augusta because you have 170 locations to like go up against on like, hey, what worked good for you? And then, so Google probably added to that database the most, but what probably closed the most jobs was between Google and door hangers, being able to do that.
Okay. So you would say guerrilla marketing still works to this day? Whether it's door hangers, knocking doors, yard signs? Yeah,
I would say, because Christmas lights is big on like door hangers and yard signs. So I think you get a lot of wins from that. And then door hangers work well when you have like we do instant pricing door hangers. So like $39.59. So like that's a big win because the customer doesn't even have to call in. Like you came to them, gave them a price, left it on their door and said, hey, if you want us to cut your yard, $39.
Exactly.
Like that's just call this number, send a photo of this in, we'll honor that price. So I feel like it's really straightforward to be able to join.
Interesting. And let's just say, if you were to sum up what's best about Augusta in 1 to 2 words, what would you say it was?
Probably what we were talking about earlier, community.
Community.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the
number one.
Yeah, I mean, everything's what you make it. And like the community has made it wonderful to be a part of. Like you can join brand new and you have a ton of people already rallying for you just because you wear yellow. So it's kind of like Mike's idea of like the military. We all have one solid mission to change the level of professionalism in the landscape industry, and we're all a piece of that pie. And so we all have one directive, one clean, one idea of what we're going to do. And so like I think just having that community is just it's undervalued.
Undervalued. Great. And so not only are you a franchisee of Augusta, but you're also a coach, right? One of the coaches. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so if you wanted to be a coach originally, because I'm going into, they actually accepted me for doing a second year of coaching. And so I just completed a year. And so last year in 2023, I applied. And you basically had to give a reason why you want to be a coach. And, I just basically said like anything and everything Augusta Nation, like whatever it needs, I just want to help. And so I'm hoping that like kind of like humility helped bring a light on like, I just want to help. And so like, it's give more than you take. Like that's one of our core values. So like, I think facilitating that and like the relationships I have with people, like that's a core value. So like I'm thinking that that's maybe why, but just explaining that I just want to be there. However, is just kind of who I am as a person, I guess. And so that's a fun role. You get to learn a lot of people. I mean, some of it, a lot of stuff about them. Like then you get to know like some of their personal stuff, like what they're going through, whether it be financial struggles, whether somebody has relationship issues, or so it's, again, people connecting with people. So it's not just business. It's business owners also go through stuff. People think, oh, you own a business, you make a bunch of money. Like the money does nothing whenever you can't win with somebody.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot of that going on as well when you're a coach.
And what are your responsibilities as a coach? What do you have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Yeah,
so on a weekly basis, we have to have a couple hours free for coaching calls. The only bad thing about the coaching program is a lot of people sign up in the spring, and that's also when I'm the busiest.
Right.
And so you kind of have to pick and choose. You get to pick and choose your hours of when you could do calls at midnight if you wanted to. You could do calls you could put your availability at 5 a.m. on Saturdays, Sundays, Tuesdays, Mondays, really whatever you want. It's open to you. It's a volunteer position.
Right.
So it's really whatever, again, it's whatever you want to make it. And so then we have a monthly call with Nick, who's our, OSM. We have calls with him once a month on like, hey, here's what we're seeing, themes, people are burnt out, which is usually like the springtime or the summertime. Here's what we want to do. Like, hey, I find this to be a hard situation. What would you do in this situation? So we have a group of like, I think it's like 8 coaches. So we all kind of help piggyback off of each other. And we can all kind of give, hey, this was an odd one. What do you think? And so we can all help each other with that too.
Okay. And then to pinpoint something you've said a couple times, burnout, right? What would be your definition of burning out?
My mom always says, you can't burn the candle at both ends, but I think sometimes you have to figure out where that candle can't be burnt anymore. Like you just have
What's your limit?
Yeah, you have to figure out what your limit is, kind of like David Goggins, like you just got to keep going until you literally can't go anymore. And so trying to find that, I feel like my candle gets bigger, in that metaphor, my candle gets larger every year. And so like beforehand where I'd be like, it's already March and I hate mowing grass. And now it's like, I feel like this year it hit me in like August, which is like way later than what it normally would. But like we moved away from a shop, or we moved out of my house into a shop, started to hire, I had like a true team. I had like 6 or 7 employees. It's like, that was cool. And, just different stressors. We did a price increase. We did, it's just, more trucks, more problems. So like we added equipment, stuff breaks, it just compiles. And so like I felt this year I was really solid up until about August, and then I had to take like 3 or 4 days off. Like I literally turned off my phone. Wow. So I feel like you work until you burn out. Like I don't necessarily think like, a lot of people 9 to 5, they take off the weekend. Yeah. I work until I just feel like I can't work anymore.
So it's not hurting.
Yeah, and then I take a break for a day or 2, and then you could go for, and I think depending on what burnt you out, depends on how much time you need to recharge, and then how much later your grind period is after the fact too. Okay, so putting your coaching hat on, I'm telling you, hey, it's middle of May, I still have a couple more weeks of spring rush, but I'm burnt out. What should I do? So to put it in like
layman's terms.
PG terms, because like
PG terms.
we listen to like the Hermoses.
Right.
Like Layla Hermoses says, like, forget your emotions, follow the plan.
Yeah.
So like I really believe in that, because like Mike or Moses, David Goggins, I mean, anybody that we listen to, Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's just more of the same thing to become successful. It's like when you're feeling burnout, that's usually the most opportune time to take advantage of. Like we usually feel burnout when we have the most strings pulling on us as people. That means that demand is at its highest. So if you don't take advantage of that, you'll be burnt out and you'll burn cash. So like it won't matter later. At least later on, I will be exhausted, but have a bunch of money in the bank is the hope. And so
Try to make it worth it.
Yeah, it should at least, business owners should get paid. So hopefully it makes it worth it later on. And so like, I feel like people get burnt out whenever they don't have a plan. So like for me this year, I had a plan. Hey, I am not stopping what I'm doing until May 15th. Like once I hit May 15th, that's when I feel like I will know where my business will be at for the rest of the year. So I felt like that was on the other end of that demand curve for us. And so that's when we did the price increase. That's when my employees quit. And that was just like the hardest time. But like I woke up and I was just like, what am I going to do? The only answer was to mow grass. And so it was just, that's all you could do. Is just keep, forget how I feel. I know what the plan is. I know what the outcome will be or should be because of other people in Augusta. So I just knew that I just had to put my head down and go. The only hard thing was I was still doing coaching calls. I was still on FAC, helping other people with their issues. And so like, I feel like when you're burnt out is because you like stop talking to other people. I feel like because we have a good community, I felt like I had to continue to talk to people. Like I had to continue going to church, because usually when people are overwhelmed, they like cut this out, they cut that out, and they only focus. And like, I mean, I had three things to focus on. My relationship with Christ, my relationship with my wife, and my relationship with the business. Like if it wasn't those three things,
You just wouldn't do it.
forget it. Like my friends are like, hey, you want to go out? No, I gotta mow grass. I remember one of my buddies wanted to come over and watch like, I don't know, the NBA finals or something like that. And he's like, I was like, yeah, you can come over, but I'm going to be working. And then we're like 3 hours into this, and he's like, are you ever going to stop working? And I looked at him and I was like, do you ever want to enjoy my future lake house?
Exactly.
So it's like putting the hard work in now.
Exactly.
I'm looking at 20 years from now. I don't care about the work right now. I care about what it gives me later on.
Do you think people are born with that kind of mindset, like that long-term mindset? Because to be a business owner, you have to have some people might call it like you have to be insane, right? Do something that is clearly not working now for a very, very, very long period of time. And then hopefully at the end you see a little bit of gold. Like, do you think you're born with that, or can you be taught that, or what do you think?
I mean, I think there's clearly like, we say like different breeds of people. I mean, I definitely think there's different breeds. Like there are entrepreneurs who should stay solo and be at that 200,000 because that's all they can mentally handle. But I think everything can be taught at the same time, or else we wouldn't have like CEOs. Like we have founders, then they retire or they sell out, and then you have a CEO like later on, or like, we hope to have general managers. It's like we need people that are similar breeds that may not be like the same as us, because they may not care like us, but there are other people who, I mean, probably most businesses were started in spite of their old boss. Like they're like, oh, I can do it. I can do it better than them, or I can do this on my own. So I do think there are, because I mean, like, I guess you could say like genetics are a thing. Like some people are born different. Like that's a fact. But I think delayed gratification is a very hard thing to be disciplined on. So I feel like that's a learned skill. So
Interesting. And you briefly spoke about faith, right? Your relationship with Christ. Was that always the case, or did you at some point kind of like give yourself up for Christ, or how was that?
Yeah, so we always went to church growing up. I probably started taking it more seriously in high school, and then in college I was we had like I don't want to say sorority, but that's probably or fraternity, but that's like the best example. Right. It was a campus ministries group, and I was vice president for that, and I feel like that shaped a lot of you know, and that's eventually where I met my wife too. And so I was vice president for that school group for a couple of years while I was while I was living on campus. And so that was really big. And I remember my first year I started mowing, I wanted to give to the charity at our church that I was growing up to, and I wanted to be able to give $1,000 to that charity or that they were building an orphanage. And so I was like, that's really cool. I want to be able to give to them. So I would mow grass to give to that. And like our church at the time, we were in the AG denomination. Like they had Speed the Light, which is to help out missionaries overseas. So like I would help out with that. And then like now me and my wife serve at our youth group. I play in the church band. And so like there's, you know, I feel like it's always been a part of what's going on.
And how important is a relationship with Christ in business? Do you think that helped you out in your darkest times and your greatest times? Because usually, sadly, most people start praying and looking for help when they're low.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like Dave Ramsey talks about that. He's like, I found Jesus on the way up. I was already at rock bottom. I found him whenever I was at rock bottom trying to get back up. I feel like it's like whenever you have a really good relationship with like your wife or a spouse, like you have somebody to lean back on. And like the one with Christ is a very selfless relationship. Like he gives you everything. He everything's in the book that he provides for you. It's like, if you do this, I give you this. And so it's not like it's necessarily an exchange, but it's just like, I want you to be in here because it's that and like parenting are probably like the two selfless things that you'll do in your life. Like it's not about you, it's about the other. And so it's like, you can't, you know, if you've been in church, you can't outgive God, right? Yeah. So it's like a relationship where you can't outgive the other person. Like they say, like the best marriages are like whenever you're trying to outserve the other person. So I feel like that mindset is just unparalleled. So I think it's a really important thing for us, for sure.
Interesting. No, that's great. So I guess you would say the three main pillars would be your relationship with Christ, your relationship with your wife, and what was the third one?
The business.
The business?
Yeah.
And going forward, anything that's not that, I guess you would say just kind of not your focus?
It could be like a detour or like something fun. Like, you know, like when you're a business owner, you don't mind not doing certain things. Like a lot of our friends are like, hey, oh man, I deserve a vacation. I'm like, I don't think anybody deserves one. Right. Like, you know, it's like we could not go on one and it wouldn't really matter because we enjoy what we're doing. Even though it's hard, you wouldn't want to do anything else. So.
No, that's interesting. And in the future, what are your plans for the business? Not a year from now.
I know.
Not a year from now.
So I think a lot of the reasons why people join Augusta is open multiple locations. Right. So I guess in the 5 to 10 year plan, it would be to open multiple locations. Short term, like we talked about, I plan to grow the business to 800,000. I have 2 other franchisees around me. So I can't really go to another place unless I almost theoretically move. Or I just have to open one that's an hour or 2 away. So it's like, do I want to do that drive every day? Do I just want to poach somebody from the location I own now and see if they want to move? You know, somebody that I've had a couple years with? Or do I just want to go to a new market? Like for us, we're in Indiana. Do I just want to go up to like Indianapolis, where it's like a major suburb, and I can do like the outer circuit of Indy, but not necessarily like I can do the metro, but not necessarily the center or the downtown. So I mean, like ideally, that would be a really cool thing, whether it be Nashville, St. Louis, Indianapolis, like somewhere within because those are all 2 or 3 hours away from us right now. But I think our 5-year plan is to stay in Evansville. And so once we hit that 800, I'm either going to make it super profitable. Well, it will be profitable at that stage. Or just have, you know, I don't wish ill things on the other 2 that are next to me, but you know, ideally, I wanted to open locations in their territories, but they beat me to it. So if one of those came up for sale, that would definitely be something we'd take advantage of.
Interesting.
And so the 5 to 10 year plan, open other locations, 5 year and less, stay in Evansville area. Greater than that, we're just, you know, it's not really, I think being flexible is smart too.
Interesting. And in the beginning, you said that one of the main reasons why you switched over to Augusta was essentially to be able to give people a career path, give people more benefits, and like just have them care about the business a bit more than they used to, just as, you know, in the regular business. Do you think that you have to open multiple locations in order to make that happen, or you think you can do all that while staying in Evansville?
I think you don't know what you don't know. I mean, I think on paper you think that you can, the sky's the limit.
Right.
But I mean, I think with, just like any other franchise, you can open other facilities elsewhere. So I would have to defer to, yes, you can do that from staying just in Evansville. I may have to drive, like then I would be like a regional, figure for a while. But, if I can go up to like Bloomington or Terre Haute or like Washington or Jasper, like some of the surrounding, or like we're only like 20 minutes away from Illinois, 10 minutes away from Kentucky because we're right in the shoehorn of Indiana. So like we could go to another state. I may have to, my limiting belief on that is I have to learn new laws because like I know it Evansville's or Indiana's. And so like you could go somewhere else and still be in Evansville. I just have to be willing to, it's like, all business is sacrifice.
Right.
And so like I'd have to be willing to drive an hour or two to somewhere else should they need me or if something, hits the fan.
Exactly. Good. And a little bit earlier, you briefly spoke about Layla and Alex Hormozi. You been following them for a while?
Honestly, I hadn't even heard of them until, like Connor Hutchinson said, I had never heard of the Hormozis until then, until I started being friends with him.
So, because in business, there's two different, I guess you would say, philosophies of how to run it, how to grow, right? You can just work like a dog for a very long time, like you said, until you break, and then even after that, keep going, or know your capacities, hit your capacities, and either delegate more, like focus on delegating more, and obviously that would be a little bit more expensive, or go the all-out way. Which one do you think would be more effective, long term?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it might be more expensive. I think money fixes a lot of problems. So of course, if you had more money, that would be probably your decision maker because there's usually, like you said, there's two trains of thought. To like simplify it, there's time or money. So it's just, do you have time on your hand and no money, or do you have money and you can pay and you can free up your time? So it's kind of like, why you hire somebody is to free up your time or to duplicate yourself. And so like what we've been trying to learn lately in Augusta is like how to use your time better or more effective timing. And so whether that be like, you put headphones on and you listen to nobody else, or like you turn off your phone for an hour, or, you just get better at what you do. Like you can do it quicker. Like that's probably our frustration with like, but it takes reps to do that. Like that's our frustration with a new employee. You're like, man, they took 45 minutes on that yard. It takes me 10 minutes. Well, yeah, you have a ton of time invested in doing that one yard.
For like 3 years.
Right.
I just started 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. So I think it comes down to the time or money, and money fixes both of those.
Interesting.
Because if you have money, you can speed up the time because you can grow quicker. But if you have time, like that's where like that's where the discretionary effort comes in. You have the door hangers, the follow-up calls, more like the gorilla or the boots on the ground type. So you either have, you just have to be creative with it.
Interesting. Okay. Now, coaching hat back on. Let's just say you have someone give you a call. They're looking to join Augusta, and money's not a problem, but they really have a problem with like their own brand, right? Like more of an ego thing, like it's not my brand, but I really want to do it because I want to grow, like as a business owner, and I want to make more money. What would you say to them to either convince them or kind of have them figure out whether to join or not?
Yeah, so one of my big things is like when people call to, hey, should I join? Like I just try to be like super blunt and honest with it because they're going to be putting their time, money, and maybe their family on the line. So like I think being super honest is super big. But if somebody comes in and they just want their own brand, I mean, you can't have both. You're joining Augusta because it is Augusta, and hopefully, the goal is that it will take over it will be the brand. It's like you can't nobody knows who. Like I was Grass Matters. Nobody knows Grass Matters anymore. Like once I took the decals off the truck, it stopped right there. Unless we're in my inner circle or my family, they have no idea what that is. And so, but everybody knows Walmart, Amazon because it takes over. So it spreads like wildfire. So I think if you're, I don't think the branding has anything to do with it. You still cut grass. Like they want the service. They don't care if it's Limit Lawns or Grass Matters. They care that the company is professional and does it well. As long as your quality and your price match, I feel like they could give a rip about everything else over time.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much, Connor.
Appreciate it. We're all done.